I remember the exact moment everything shifted. Like someone tilted the floor beneath my feet, and suddenly nothing felt stable anymore. It was late. One of those summer nights where the heat doesn't let go. Where the air itself feels thick with something unspoken. The kind of night where skin sticks to silk, and every brush of wind feels like it carries a secret. We were just two women sitting on a couch, sharing a bottle of red we both knew we shouldn't finish. My best friend's laughter was slower that night, deeper. And the way her shoulder touched mine so casually at first, had stopped feeling casual about 20 minutes ago. Her name's Ava. And she's always been beautiful in that effortless, dangerous way. A kind of beauty that makes you question your own thoughts, your own body. The way she moves, the way she looks at you when she's not trying, it gets under your skin. I've always told myself it was just admiration. A little envy, maybe. Nothing more. But that night she looked at me like she knew. Like every carefully sealed box in my chest, the ones I've kept buried for years, was suddenly wide open. I tried to look away when her eyes lingered too long. I tried to laugh at the way her fingers brushed my thigh when she reached for the remote. But my body, traitor that it is, felt every single touch like it meant something more. I saw the way he looked at you, she said, her voice low and teasing as she sipped from her glass. I blinked. Who? Jason. At the barbecue. He was practically undressing you with his eyes. I laughed too loudly. He's your brother's friend. He looks at everyone like that. She shrugged, that same amused smirk playing on her lips. Still, I don't think you noticed the way you looked back. I wanted to brush it off, to change the subject. But something about her tone, something about the way she said you made my skin prickle. I met her gaze, and instantly regretted it. There was a challenge in her eyes, quiet but deliberate. Like she was waiting for me to admit something. Like she already knew and was just playing with the truth. Suddenly the room felt too small. I don't think I looked at him anyway, I said, softer now. Her eyes didn't flinch. Maybe not. Or maybe you were imagining someone else. Her words landed like a match in dry grass. My stomach twisted, heat rising in my throat. Someone else. I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. Ava leaned closer, so close I could smell the wine on her breath, and something sweeter beneath it. Her voice dropped, intimate and slow. I see the way you look at me sometimes. Time stopped. My heart kicked hard in my chest like it was trying to escape. I wanted to deny it. Laugh. Say something that would make this moment disappear. But all I could do was look at her. And she knew. She knew I wasn't looking at Jason. She knew this had nothing to do with a barbecue or a friend's gaze. It was always her. And now I couldn't pretend anymore. Her words echoed in the space between us like a dare I hadn't been ready for. I see the way you look at me sometimes. It wasn't accusatory. It wasn't playful either. It was something in between, laced with curiosity, a whisper of danger. And maybe something else. Something I wasn't sure I could handle. I didn't answer right away. My throat had gone dry. And suddenly the warmth from the wine wasn't helping. I could feel the outline of her thigh still pressed lightly against mine. The soft press of skin through denim. Nothing obscene. Nothing overt. But it might as well have been a fire. I don't know what you mean, I managed. She tilted her head, studying me with those maddening eyes. Blue-gray and sharp, always seeing more than they should. Always looking straight through the version of me I tried to present to the world. Ava reached forward and poured a little more wine into both our glasses. Her fingers brushed mine just for a second. Deliberate. Lingering. I think you do, she said simply. And then she leaned back like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just exposed the thing I had buried for years under layers of friendship and silence. The TV was still playing, some forgettable rom-com neither of us were watching. But all I could hear now was the quiet thrum of my own heartbeat. Loud. Relentless. The air between us changed. It thickened. Stilled. Like the pause before a storm or a first kiss. And I hated how much I wanted that storm to break. I watched her in the corner of my eye. The way she tucked her leg under her body. The way her neckline dipped just enough to make me forget my name. Her skin glowed in the soft light, warm and golden. Like it was inviting me to touch it. I didn't. But I thought about it. God, I thought about it. I always wondered, she said suddenly, what it would be like. My breath caught. What would be like? Ava turned to me fully now. Her knee brushed mine, and this time she didn't move away. If we ever stopped pretending? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, because I had imagined that same question, in the dark, under my sheets, in moments I hated myself for. But hearing her say it, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing the ground was gone, and still not wanting to step back. I looked down at my glass. Ava. She leaned in, her voice soft, near my ear now. I'm not asking you to do anything. I just want to know if I'm wrong. I turned my head to meet her eyes, and we were too close. Her lips were inches from mine. Her breath warmed my cheek. I felt something crack open in me, slow, silent, undeniable. You're not wrong, I whispered. There it was. Truth. Heavy. Liberating. Terrifying. Ava smiled, small secret satisfied. And I knew something had shifted that could never shift back. But what I didn't know, not yet, was that this moment wasn't just about her. There was another layer I hadn't even dared to speak aloud. A secret that would surface before the night was over. A fantasy that didn't just include Ava, but someone else. After I admitted it, after I told her she wasn't wrong, there was this moment where everything went still. Not quiet. Still. Like the entire room was holding its breath. Ava didn't kiss me. She didn't pull away either. She just stared at me like she was reading every thought I'd ever tried to bury. I could feel her breath on my lips. I could feel my pulse in places I didn't want to acknowledge. I think part of me expected her to laugh. Or shrug. Or turn this into a joke the way we always had, teasing, flirty but never serious. But she didn't. She just looked at me like I was some mystery she'd waited too long to solve. I've always wondered, she said, her voice almost reverent, if you'd let me see that side of you. My voice barely worked. What side? She reached up and tucked a piece of hair behind my ear, slow, intimate, like we were already in a different story. The part of you that wants more than you'll ever say out loud. I swallowed. Hard. Because she wasn't wrong. I'd spent so much time pretending. Smiling through it. Dating men I didn't really feel much for. Flirting with charm instead of fire. And telling myself it was enough. But it wasn't. It had never been. And what made it worse, what made my breath catch in my throat and my stomach twist, was the other part of that fantasy. The one I never told anyone. Not even myself, really. It wasn't just Ava I wanted. It was Ava and her roommate. Yeah, Tess. The quiet, artistic one. The girl with the deep eyes and dark lipstick and the habit of always watching instead of speaking. She was never loud in the room. Never the one telling the stories or stealing the spotlight. But she was there. Always. Lingering. Like a question I didn't know how to answer. There were nights I'd lie in bed replaying conversations with Ava, only to suddenly remember the way Tess had looked at me from the kitchen. Not flirtatious. Not obvious. But knowing. And now, sitting inches away from Ava, with my confession still hanging in the air, my body humming with the kind of tension that makes it hard to stay still, that image rose uninvited in my mind. Tess. In the doorway. Watching. My cheeks flushed with the thought, and I looked away. Ashamed of how much I wanted something I'd never even had the courage to say. But Ava, she saw it. Of course she did. You're thinking about her, aren't you? She said softly. I froze. What? Her eyes sparkled, amused but not unkind. Tess. You just thought about her. I saw it. You always do this little thing with your lip when you're trying to push something out of your mind. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Ava, She leaned back, stretching her arm across the back of the couch, her expression unreadable now. You don't have to explain. I've seen the way you look at her. It's different from the way you look at me, but it's still there. I opened my mouth. Closed it again. I had no words. Ava smiled, slow and deliberate. Do you want to know a secret? I nodded, barely breathing. She's asked about you. Silence. The kind that fills every corner of your chest and squeezes. What do you mean? I whispered. She's asked if there was ever something between us. Between you and me. I told her it was complicated. My heart was pounding. Why would she ask that? Ava's eyes held mine like a secret she wasn't quite ready to say. Maybe because she was hoping the answer was yes. That was the moment the night turned. Not because anything happened, not yet. But because suddenly the world of maybe became a world of what if. What if Ava wasn't the only one who noticed? What if Tess felt it too? And what if this thing I'd been too afraid to say out loud was already more real than I realized? Ava left the sentence hanging in the air. Maybe because she was hoping the answer was yes. And I was still trying to process what that even meant when the front door opened. Footsteps. Soft. Familiar. Tess. I froze. It was too soon, too perfectly timed. Like the universe had been listening, and now it was sending the final test. She stepped into the living room, holding her sketchbook under one arm, dark curls a little damp from the summer rain outside. Her eyes landed on me first, then slid to Ava. Something flickered in her expression. A slight raise of the eyebrow. Nothing dramatic. But Ava caught it too. "Hey," Tess said casually. Too casually. "Didn't know you were still here." Her voice had that smoky quiet tone, like she always knew more than she said. She was wearing one of those oversized t-shirts that fell off one shoulder, exposing the elegant slope of her collarbone. Bare legs. No makeup. Just Tess. My body betrayed me instantly. A tightening in my chest, a rush of heat low in my stomach. Because now the thing I'd only imagined was right here, looking at me with eyes that were too calm for what I was feeling. Ava didn't move. We were just talking. Tess gave a small nod and walked past us toward the kitchen. I watched the way her hips moved, slow and deliberate, like she knew we were watching her. She opened the fridge, took a water bottle and leaned against the counter. "You two look intense," she said after a moment, unscrewing the cap and taking a sip. Ava's voice was velvet. "We were talking about you." Tess didn't flinch. She swallowed, capped the bottle again and met her gaze. "Were you?" Ava turned to me. "Wanna tell her, or should I?" My heart was a wild animal now, thrashing inside me. "Ava." But Tess was already walking back toward the couch, a slow, unhurried rhythm to her steps. She didn't sit beside Ava. She sat beside me. Close. Too close. Our thighs touched. Skin to skin. I could feel the heat radiating off her. My body was humming like a struck string, vibrating with questions I didn't know how to ask. "I'm listening," she said, voice soft, eyes on me. Ava didn't interrupt. She just watched. I looked down at my hands. "This is crazy." "Maybe," Tess said. "But sometimes the crazy things are the most honest." I don't know what gave me the courage. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was Ava's steady presence. Maybe it was the way Tess was looking at me now, not with judgment but with curiosity. Invitation. "I've thought about you," I said quietly. Tess's eyes softened. "I've thought about you too." A pause. Then she added, "Both of you." The air left my lungs in a rush. She wasn't just saying it to be kind, or to play a part. She meant it. I could feel it. Ava smiled. "Told you." Tess leaned back slightly, her arm brushing mine. And for a second I couldn't remember how to breathe. There were no moves made. No lines crossed. Just three bodies in a room. Hearts open, pulses fast, eyes filled with the kind of tension that makes time stop. It wasn't about sex. Not yet. It was about energy. Pull. Possibility. The kind of connection that feels like a spark held just above dry kindling. And I could feel it the moment right before the matches struck. The silence wrapped around us like silk. Smooth, heavy and full of static. I could hear every breath. Every shift of fabric. The way Ava leaned slightly toward Tess. The way Tess's fingers rested just a little too close to mine on the cushion. No one said anything for a moment. And somehow that said everything. I didn't know where to look. Ava, sitting across from me with her legs curled under her. Her gaze steady and unreadable. Or Tess, so close I could feel her warmth, her shoulder brushing mine like it was testing something. Like she was waiting to see if I'd flinch. I didn't. "I've never." I started, then stopped. Tess turned her head toward me, her voice low like a confession whispered into the dark. "You don't have to finish that sentence." But I wanted to. Needed to. I've never felt this drawn to two people. At the same time. Like something I didn't even know was allowed suddenly feels. Inevitable. Tess's eyes softened. "It is allowed. You're allowed to want." And Ava from across the couch nodded once. "You're allowed to feel everything." Those words, "you're allowed," unlocked something in me I didn't know had been locked. I felt my chest loosen like I'd been holding in a breath for years and finally remembered how to exhale. Tess's hand found mine then. gently without pressure, like an anchor offered in a storm. Her thumb brushed slow circles across my knuckles, and I felt the shiver start low and rise through my spine. I looked at her. Really looked. Her lips were parted just slightly, like she'd been about to speak but didn't. Her skin was lit golden by the lamp behind us, her dark curls falling against her cheek. She smelled like rain and something warm. Cedarwood maybe, or the memory of a dream. I whispered. I wanted this before I even knew I could want it. Ava stood slowly and crossed the room. Her presence was quiet but certain. The kind of energy that makes you sit straighter, breathe deeper. She didn't speak. She just came behind the couch, resting her hands on my shoulders, soft at first, then grounding. I closed my eyes. 2 touches. One at my hand, one at my shoulders. Tess and Ava. Different energies. One gentle and inviting, one firm and steady. And somehow both exactly what I needed. I felt Ava lean down, her breath near my ear. You don't have to choose. A shiver rolled down my spine. Not from fear. From recognition. Something was happening. Something I had spent years pretending didn't live inside me. Desire, yes. But more than that, permission. I didn't open my eyes when I felt Ava's lips graze my shoulder, soft as breath. I didn't pull away when Tess shifted closer, her thigh pressing firmly against mine. I let it happen. I let it all happen. And in that moment I wasn't outside myself observing or analyzing. I was in it. Fully. Finally. There were no questions anymore. Just heat. Contact. Pulse. And the unbearable beauty of letting go. The room had a pulse now. It wasn't just silence, it was alive. Every breath, every glance, every inch of space between us hummed like the edge of something sacred. And dangerous. Tess hadn't moved her hand from mine. If anything, her fingers had tightened just slightly. She was still close, the kind of closeness that made my whole body ache with awareness. And Ava, her hand still on my shoulders, was drawing the smallest, most maddening circles with her thumbs, like she knew exactly how to keep me suspended right where she wanted me. I didn't know how long we sat like that. Seconds. Minutes. Time bent strangely when desire wasn't rushing but settling, curling itself around us, wrapping its arms around every breath. And then Ava spoke. Her voice was low. Intentional. Say it. My heart kicked. Say what? I asked even though I already knew. What you want, she said. Out loud. Tess shifted beside me, her leg pressing firmer against mine. Her hand sliding a little further up my arm. I swallowed, staring straight ahead. I don't know if I can. Ava leaned down again. Her lips close enough that her words brushed the edge of my jaw. Yes, you can. I closed my eyes. What did I want? The truth was I wanted this. I wanted both of them. I wanted to feel their hands, their mouths, their energy tangling with mine until I couldn't tell who I was responding to, who was pulling me deeper. I wanted Tess's quiet mystery and Ava's sharp confidence. I wanted to get lost in the way they touched me, and each other. I wanted all of it. But saying that meant I had to own it. Own the part of me that had always felt other. Too much. Too curious. Too hungry. Tess moved closer, her lips brushing my temple. If you say it, she whispered, we'll give it to you. That did it. That cracked something open. I turned slowly, meeting Ava's gaze first, then Tess's. I want both of you, I said. Came out low, almost like a secret. But it was real. And once I said it, I didn't want to stop. I've wanted this for so long. I just didn't know how to say it. I didn't know if I was allowed. Ava's smile was something I'll never forget. Not wicked. Not smug. Just deeply knowing. You're allowed, she said. And now that you've said it. She stepped around the couch and knelt in front of me, sliding her fingers along my knees. We're not pretending anymore. Tess tucked my hair behind my ear and whispered, we've been waiting for you to be ready. And I was. Fully. Utterly. Ready. This wasn't just a game anymore. This wasn't curiosity or coincidence. This was desire claimed. It's wild how something can feel both terrifying and inevitable at the same time. Like standing in front of a wave that's been building for years, and finally deciding not to run. That's what this was. The second I said it, I want both of you, the entire room exhaled. Or maybe that was just me. I hadn't even realized how much tension I'd been carrying, until it left me all at once, like a weight dropping off my chest. Ava's hand slid along my thighs, slow, purposeful. She didn't rush. No one did. That was the thing, there was no urgency. Just awareness. Desire, thick and alive, stretching itself across every second like honey. Tess moved behind me, her arm wrapping around my waist. I could feel her breath against my neck, warm and steady. Her body pressed against mine, solid, grounding. And Ava, God, Ava, knelt in front of me like I was something to be worshipped, not claimed. No one said a word. They didn't have to. Ava's eyes held mine as her hands traced the edges of my hips, slow circles, thumbs pressing into the softness of my waist. She looked at me like she wanted to memorize me. Not just my body but the way I felt in that moment. Like she knew something important was happening, and she was choosing not to look away. Behind me, Tess's lips brushed the shell of my ear. "You're shaking," she whispered. "I know," I breathed. "Do you want us to stop?" "No." Tess smiled against my skin. "Then let us take our time with you." I could barely think. All I could feel was sensation, layered, deliberate, intimate. Tess's hand found mine again and guided it to her knee, letting me feel the soft heat of her skin. My fingertips grazed upward, and she let me. Encouraged it even. Her other hand was sliding under my shirt, fingertips tracing my back, feather-light. Ava leaned in, her lips just above mine, not quite kissing. "You're allowed to feel everything," she whispered again. And then finally her lips met mine. It wasn't fast. It wasn't demanding. It was slow, deep. She kissed me like she was trying to pull every unsaid word from my mouth, like she could taste all the years I'd spent pretending I didn't want this. And behind me, Tess pressed closer, her lips moving along the line of my neck, each kiss sending a wave through my chest, down my spine, into places I didn't dare name out loud. I felt Tess's hand find Ava's, their fingers brushing across my stomach. God, they were touching me together now. I didn't know where one of them ended and the other began. It was just heat, movement, breath, the sound of lips, the whisper of fabric, the hush of need building like a storm cloud. I let go completely. Let them move me, hold me, take me somewhere I'd never been before. And in that moment I wasn't afraid. Not of what it meant. Not of what came next. Because I had never felt more wanted. By two women who weren't just indulging a fantasy, but creating one with me. Sunlight came in slow, spilling across the hardwood floor like it was trying not to wake us. I was the first one to open my eyes. Tess was still wrapped around me, her leg tangled with mine, her breath warm against my collarbone. Ava had fallen asleep on the other side, one hand resting on my hip, her hair fanned across the pillow like a painting. Everything was quiet, still, but not the kind of silence that feels empty, the kind that feels full. Like the world had nothing more to say, because we had already heard what mattered most. I didn't move right away. I wanted to stay in that moment just a little longer. Let it stretch. There had been no promises made the night before. No declarations of love or talk of what this means. And I didn't need that. What I needed was this, the memory of it. The softness. The heat. The feeling of being seen by two people at once, and not shrinking from it. We hadn't rushed anything. Every touch had felt like a question. Every answer came in the form of breath, a kiss, a shift in pressure. I remember the way Tess's eyes had searched mine before she undressed me. Slow, almost reverent. And how Ava had murmured encouragement into my skin, like she was reading my thoughts before I had the courage to say them. We didn't just explore each other. We invited each other in. And I'd never known that could feel this safe. There was a moment, sometime past midnight, where I'd been lying between them. Tess's fingers laced with mine, Ava's lips trailing along my shoulder. And I thought, this isn't about lust. This is about being wanted in every direction at once. Fully. Without apology. And now, in the soft hush of morning, I felt changed. Not broken open, just opened. I eased out of bed quietly, wrapped one of Ava's oversized button-downs around me, and padded to the kitchen. Everything looked the same. The empty wine glasses. A couple of candles still flickering low. The faint scent of vanilla and skin still in the air. But I knew. Nothing was the same anymore. I poured coffee, leaned against the counter and let myself smile. It wasn't the kind of smile you post on Instagram or tell your group chat about. It was private. Deep. A secret folded between my ribs. What happened between us that night didn't need a label. Just was a moment I got to live in fully. And now a memory I got to keep tucked away, safe, glowing mine. And maybe, just maybe, a beginning. But even if it wasn't, it was enough. It was more than enough.